In the early days of a SaaS company, the founder's personal profile serves as the primary distribution channel and the first source of credibility. This personal approach allows an unknown startup with no marketing budget to compete directly against established corporations. The strategy relies on trust transfer. Before a buyer believes in the product, they extend their confidence to the human expert solving the problem. Research shows that over half of decision-makers care less about an organization's fame if the thought leadership is high quality, specifically when it uses a human tone to challenge their existing assumptions. This founder-driven model bypasses the need for expensive brand equity. Iteration happens in days rather than months, and the market provides a direct signal on what framing actually works. However, the mechanics that make this approach work so well early on also give it a hidden expiry date. Engagement typically climbs for several quarters, plateaus, and then begins to slide even as the founder's content becomes more sophisticated. Most founders assume the writing is the problem, so they increase their posting frequency, which only accelerates the decline in reach. We need to look at why the exact mechanism that built the initial pipeline eventually starts to starve it. This plateau signals a structural breakdown in the company's growth mechanics that will eventually threaten the business if left unaddressed. The shift begins with the fundamental math of how business buyers actually move through a market. B2B software purchases are governed by the 95-5 rule, a model based on average repurchase cycles. On a grid of 100 blocks, only 5 illuminated in blue are actively seeking a solution. Because companies replace providers infrequently, 95% are structurally locked out. Once audience growth stops, exposure to new in-market buyers completely stalls. Content quality cannot change this reality. A brilliant post cannot force a company to break a 5-year contract early. Reach is only half the equation. The second problem is that B2B software is rarely purchased by a single individual. While the founder speaks to the practitioner, the actual buying committee includes stakeholders in finance, security, and legal. These hidden decision-makers spend hours every week reading thought leadership, but they typically ignore founder posts about product shipping velocity or technical builds. Simultaneously, every founder holds a finite reservoir of hard-won original lessons. After about 18 months of consistent posting, that reservoir runs dry. To maintain the volume required by social algorithms, the founder often resorts to repetition or broad generalities, which erodes the specificity that made the content work initially. Eventually, the founder is broadcasting generic advice to an audience that lacks the authority to approve a check. Founders can diagnose this plateau early by performing a reach audit on their own analytics. Follower counts often hide the truth, continuing to climb even as the number of new qualified people being reached each month falls off. By comparing commenters across 90-day windows, a founder can see if they are trapped in a closed loop of repeat engagers, rather than reaching new prospects. The most significant signal, however, is key person risk. If a 2-week absence by the founder causes a measurable dip in the pipeline, the strategy has shifted from a growth accelerator to a single point of failure. This dependency means the company's demand generation is entirely tied to one person's daily output. Correcting this requires building institutional demand channels while the founder's reach is still effective. Assets like case studies and recorded customer calls shift the burden of proof from the founder's personality to the product's actual performance. To reach the rest of the buying committee, the company needs ROI models and security pages, content that serves the stakeholders who never speak to sales. Success is measured by a shrinking founder share of total demand. The goal is for founder posts to be an advantage for the company, rather than a requirement. These institutional assets can take over a year to carry meaningful volume, so starting them after the plateau appears creates a significant revenue gap. When founder-led marketing buys enough time and credibility to build a decentralized demand system, its specific mission is complete.